Yeah, I hope. Right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My wife can't see the crowd, I don't think, so I'm just going to tell her basically nobody's here. We only have a handful of people here. But glad you're here for what I hope will be a very short meeting of the Planning Commission. I will say quickly that if you're interested in addressing the commission and you are not an applicant, please make sure you fill out one of these forms. We do ask that you please silence all cell phones and please be respectful of each other and the process today, and we will just move forward quickly. We'll start with the receipt of the minutes from the October 12th, 2023 meeting, and I think we're just looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to receive the minutes from the last meeting.
Commissioner Govine moves to receive the minutes from the October 12th, 2023 meeting. That motion's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes.
Vote aye too.
Commissioner Powers and Commissioner Newman vote aye. We were able to get it in, I think. There we go. And the motion passes. We're now in line for continuance requests, and we'll begin with uncontested requests.
We have, let's see, 6, and the first is item 3, SPUD 1509, deferred to November 9th. The second is item 4, case CE 1109, deferred to November 9th. Item 5, case PUD 1958, deferred to November 9th. Item 6, case PC 10899, deferred to December 14th. Item 7, case SPUD 1492, deferred to January 11th. And item 8, case PC 10901, has been withdrawn.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to be heard on any of these uncontested requests? Seeing none, we're looking for a motion to approve of those requests.
I'll move to approve the continuance request as read.
Commissioner Govine moves to grant the continuance requests as read. That motion's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Newman votes aye. Yeah, that's weird. Refresh, log out. And the motion passes. There are no new requests. We will move there, and there's nothing for the consent docket. So we're going to move on to items requiring separate vote, and we'll begin with item 1.
This is case PUD 1969, application to rezone 2322 Northwest 150th Street from PUD 1577.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining me today.
It's the Mark Show.
Yes, Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. This is a project we're very excited to bring before you. This is what's really become a new concept across the country. It is build to rent. It's essentially a deconstructed multifamily project. So if you think Wheeler-esque in terms of the Peddler's Row homes, it's a series of 1, 2, 3 bedroom, standalone, single family homes that all operate under one ownership, much like an apartment complex. So there's a common clubhouse, pool, and then a significant amount of walking trails throughout. It's been designed to hide the parking, interact with the street and the community by having homes with front porches that face outward rather than building a wall or a fence to kind of enclose everyone and gate everyone in. So there are no TEs. Right before the last hearing, Mr. Portman, who represents the residents at Epworth immediately to our east, reached out. They had questions about the project. We've met with them. We've submitted a revised document to alleviate some of their concerns. The only item that we weren't really able to alleviate the concern in the master design statement was regarding drainage. After a conversation with staff, it was determined that the language we were seeking was not appropriate to put into the PUD. So what I wanted to do was just note for the record that our office is committed to working with the Epworth residents through our engineering design and through the construction to ensure that the stormwater plan and the grading plan matches what we've said, to ensure that there's no additional or worsening of the water ponding that's occurring on their property where we intend to pick it up. So with that, I think Mr. Portman wanted the opportunity to say a few things, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? I did meet with Mark about this, and I'm definitely in support. I think it's a great way of building density in kind of a different way. Would you mind, Mark, just one more, just for our clarity, outlining the challenges that would happen if someone wanted to purchase this property after it's been built and convert them all to single-family homes?
Sure. Jared, can you go back to the site plan? So one of the unique things about this and what's been the struggle for these types of projects and thinking through flexibility of can we sell these later, the only path forward is a condo project. They would not be able to be sold fee simple because of the way the utilities are designed and the way the road network is. So this is set up essentially as a parking lot. So none of these homes would have legal street frontage, and then none of them have public access to public utilities.
Okay.
So everything throughout this is designed as private systems.
That's helpful to know. Any other questions, commissioners? We do have one person signed up to speak.
So, the question that was asked was about if someone wanted to purchase it later and convert it. How committed are we to the drainage and the layout and the utilities right this minute? I mean, what if somebody wanted to purchase it tomorrow?
Sure. So the PUD is very similar to what exists on the property today, which is single family, 2-family, 3 and 4 family. The difference is we've actually brought the height down from, I think the original PUD had 50 feet. We brought that down and then put in some more restrictions. We are working through the beginning of engineering design now, so we know our client at least is committed enough to move forward with that. They have every intent of developing this. The way the PUD is drafted would not prevent someone from going in and building a single-family neighborhood. So we haven't drafted this to require it, but the PUD stipulates that if someone was to propose a project that is substantially different than the layout and product type you see, the specific plan kicks in and requires it to come back before you all.
What's the comparison of the density of what would be allowed currently and what will be allowed tomorrow if this passes?
So it's actually very similar because it's the PUD today allows fourplexes. So you wouldn't see something come back as a traditional apartment project. We've put in the PUD that while we have the R4 use, traditional garden-style apartments is not permitted. When this was originally approved, which I believe you were on the commission at that time, we were attempting to prevent traditional garden-style multifamily from spreading across this entire section of land. And this was one of those tracts that was restricted to the single-family, 2-family, and then up to 4-plex. So density is in line with what we could have built with using stacked duplexes or 4-plexes.
It almost seems like if you wanted to purchase this, you'd be better off leaving it with the existing zoning, you know, than going to this plan. But, you know, you wanted a massive development of apartments or something like that.
The unfortunate thing about this type of development, it's very new. There's one immediately south that's much more inward facing, and then this developer is working on one on Memorial Road right now that's under construction. The unfortunate thing about the way our code is written, even for 4-plexes, the minimum lot sizes, the minimum lot frontages, they're just not conducive to trying to do a much more urban style, neighborhood friendly type of product. So that's really what necessitated the rezoning.
I was just going to chime in that I also think that this is a typology of housing that is being built. There's more of these happening. There's been a few small ones in Gatewood where there's just maybe 6 or 8. They stay rented. They stay well maintained. I think it's a fairly user-friendly way of living that I'm in support of. And you use the term user-friendly, or well, just the fact that they're outward facing on the perimeter, I think is a much more appropriate way to develop in this area as well. So you don't have the big sort of gated blocks with the sea of parking around it. It's much more welcoming to the surrounding developments and community. So yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Agreed. Let's hear from our neighbor, Mr. Leo Portman. And could you give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to address the commission.
Thank you. I'm Leo Portman. My address is 1637 Camden Way. I represent the Epworth Villas. We spent some time working with Mark on the plan. We're actually happier with this plan than the existing PUD because it gave, the existing PUD had 3 levels of apartments that may have abutted the fence line on the, I would say that's south where the road is. This road, there'll be a 100-foot set off from the villas that are next to it. And they've agreed to keep the height down as well as move the 2-story buildings further away from the fence line. So there'll be just 1-story buildings for the first 100 feet. Is that right, Mark? Ish. They've been very easy to work with. They're going to leave a tree in that's important to our owners of the casita all the way to the west. And we think this plan would be much better than a number of apartment buildings, fourplexes, et cetera. So we're excited to see the new and high-quality units being put in and managed by one group. So as Mark and I worked over his PUD and made significant changes, as long as the PUD represents the changes we made the other day, we're supportive of his PUD. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the revisions to the PUD that were just mentioned were submitted to staff prior to the agenda going out, so that's reflected, which is why there's no additional TEs. In terms of the revisions that were made, Mr. Portman's correct. We did things like no second floor patios are allowed to look east within a certain distance. We are being very cognizant about where we're placing those 1- and 2-story homes based on the conversation we've had with the residents. And then we added a tree, a landscape buffer, and then we're going to do everything we can to preserve an existing tree that one of the residents requested. You can see it on the site plan. There's a note, a little black note coming off of it, and a much larger tree island. There's a larger, more significant tree there. We're going to do everything we can to try and put that in an island to preserve it. But yes, everything that we agreed to is noted in the staff report and the PUD.
Any other questions, commissioners? Then I think we're just ready for a motion.
I'll move to recommend approval of PUD 1969.
Commissioner Govine moves to recommend approval of PUD 1969 to City Council. That motion has been seconded by Commissioner Newman. Please cast your votes. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Mark Show continues for item 2.
Almost over.
Oh,
Item 2 is case C-7581, preliminary plat of cottages at the Grove, located north of Northwest 178th Street and east of North Portland Avenue, and a variance to section 5.2.8.A of the subdivision regulations.
Good afternoon, Mark Zitzow, Johnson & Associates. Address is 1 Sheridan Avenue. Before you is a property that you saw earlier this year for a townhome-style product as part of the Grove development and Grove community in Northwest Oklahoma City. And so this is another one of those projects that the current zoning code and the 3-family, 4-family R4, it doesn't really work for this type of product. Our goal and what was noted to the neighbors throughout the project was that this would be a for-sale product, which is why you see all of the individual lot lines. If we were just to go into this with one lot, we would not be needing the variance. The variance is being triggered because this is being broken down into fee-simple lots. And I think that's an important component of that, because what we're asking for, we don't believe to be too dense for one access point. It's the type of product that we do not believe the code is properly accounting for when it's being reviewed. So it matches the existing PUD. It's a very similar layout to what you saw. It was this T type of street network. And again, the commitment to the neighbors for this to be for sale product is why the variance is requested. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but this is in line with the zoning that was approved through council.
looks like we don't have Ward 8 today. Questions, commissioners? So it's essentially, Mark, just to make sure I'm following your point about the inadequacy of the code, you're saying that because this was contemplated to be, I mean, it's supposed to be R4 already. So the fact that we're actually developing all of these additional lots is going to require you to have the secondary access point, and it otherwise, you could have the same number of basically people on this same.
We could, yes, we could have the same number of units under the zoning,
Without
but we
needing
wouldn't
the
be able to sell them. So
Okay.
the fact that we want to sell them, the way the subregs read is 30 or more lots.
Okay.
And so if we came in with one lot and these 54 units, we're not requesting a variance. It's not triggered. But because we're trying to sell them, that's what's the hangup.
And that's odd, because again, you're still talking about the same number of people using the same space.
Correct.
Right. Interesting.
And presumably the distances, the turnarounds, and all that works for fire truck access and, I mean,
Correct. So in the staff report, I think fire had no comments noted in the staff report. So they had no concerns over the layout or the density.
We just got used to bringing that stuff up without you being here, Commissioner Meek. Look at your impact
Sorry to steal your
already,
thunder.
you know?
I was figuring the radius is why y'all were doing that.
I would very much like to sit down with you and talk through this sometime, because of two things. First of all, over the years, there have been not much more than a handful of proposed developments in my ward that were townhomes. And, you know, I guess I have almost like a brownstone view of what a townhome is. Maybe not specifically or necessarily with a stoop out front, but, you know. And none of them have ever gotten built. You know, I'm curious about why that is, one fairly recently. But also, I happen to own a condominium in Surrey Hills that I'm desperately trying to sell, if you know anybody who wants a condominium. That is one of 5 units in a building. I don't own a lot. You know, I've just got the part of the building that is sort of the interior space. Could something like this be done and sold through a condominium process?
Yes, that would be the alternative. And so in terms of townhome product, I think when we get together as a ULI group often, it's talked about why doesn't our market see a lot of townhome development. And what we hear from the development community, the banking community, is we historically have not had that product type in Oklahoma City. At the time when our city was being built, we were moving on to single-family homes, which is why the bulk of our community around the core is all single-family. And so I don't think the lenders, the bankers, the developers, and then the construction community are very well versed in that typology. And then that gets passed on to the consumer of, for the same price to build 1,500 square feet, I don't have to share walls. So it's not common, but the housing study that I think you all heard earlier this year or last year noted the need for different typologies. As we're getting more people moving in, more people are looking for a product like this, particularly in a school district like this. So I think there are certain people who are willing to kind of go out on a ledge here and try and test the market on products like this. The ones in the core have sold. There's 2 in 10 Penn and Gatewood that, taking aesthetic and site planning out of it, those all did sell relatively quickly. But they are harder to build.
And so, yeah, we need to sit down and talk, because I'm confused by that. What would be the advantage for a purchaser of this model as compared to a condominium?
They own the land. So again, I'm not an expert on condominium sales. What we've heard is there are groups that have struggled with lawsuits post-construction. The developer of a condominium project is liable for an extended period of time for the product, even after it's all sold. And so lawsuits can still come, so there's much more liability on a developer to build that type of product versus build essentially the same building, but they're selling it off, and then they're no longer liable after the warranty is up.
But even though you own the land, you can't build anything else on it. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm going to take my little lot number 15 and put a house on it. I mean, it is what it is.
Correct. You would have, the CC&Rs are going to dictate the architectural regulations and to make sure that they're building what they're supposed to and how they attach properly. 'Cause there's also firewalls that have to go in between that have to be constructed. And lots this narrow, it would be extremely difficult to build a detached, not impossible, but very difficult to build a detached home on a lot size like that.
Okay.
Commissioner Powers, Dustin Utilities Department. One of the reasons condos and townhomes are a little bit different, because if it's a condo, multifamily, then it's mastered metered. So they don't have the individual meters, and they don't have their individual services. It's all mastered metered. Whereas this one, since there are individual units, separate, fee simple, so each one of them will have their own separate water meter, their own separate sewer service and everything. So do the utilities, doing the condos and townhomes, it becomes a challenge for that as well. So,
If someone doesn't pay their water bill, it's up to the HOA to attempt to stop service, whereas the city on a fee simple lot can just cut it off.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? Then I think we're ready to just vote on the variance first.
Hey, one more question. So is there any, I do see there is, common area? One of the things that's kind of weird about our little condominium 5-unit build is that the rate for the water, I think, is commercial rather than residential for the,
since these are considered single-family residences or one unit, it's just a residential rate.
okay.
Just as if it was a detached subdivision for R1 single-family housing.
So even for the part of it that is on common area? Okay. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so in terms of common area, there's a significant amount. There's a large detention easement and pond and open space. But on this, what you see are common areas that break up. So rather than having an extremely long row of buildings, they are broken up by common areas, and you can kind of see those there. There's some at the end of the cul-de-sacs, but then we are providing common area that's breaking up the building wall.
Okay, thank you.
So I think now we're looking for a motion on the variance. Commissioner Powers moves to approve of the variance to section 5.2.8.a of the subdivision regulations. That motion's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes. And the motion passes.
Thank you, and for those keeping count, 24 minutes.
Okay, we're doing pretty good. I'd say we're doing, well, that was just the variance, Mark.
So close.
You were ready, so I guess add another minute from
Yeah.
walk back to the podium. The Commissioner Powers moves to approve of C 7581. The motion's been seconded by Commissioner Meek. Please cast your votes.
We did accept all the TEs.
And accepting all the TEs. And the motion passes. We're still at 24 minutes,
Still at
right?
24 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you all.
That's still pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. This brings us to the end of our items requiring a separate vote. There are no additional items. Any reports from Planning Commission committees? We can hear from Planning Commission members. Commissioner Powers?
No?
Commissioner Meek, we're so glad you're back.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be back.
Commissioner Privet?
I believe I had 155, so let's wrap this up.
So I need to hurry up so that we can gavel out? Okay. Commissioner Newman?
I've got nothing.
Commissioner Govine? Nothing. I will just say quickly, thank you for our, we got candy today from staff.
got
They're
two
giving
of them.
us a gift. We should be giving them gifts. So that's very kind. Planning Department?
Gift of my presence.
So I wanted to make sure to announce a reminder that this coming Thursday, November 2nd, we'd like to have a study session I think we've heard back from most of you, but who have we not heard back from, Sarah? Okay, Janice will be there. Anybody else? I think everybody on this horseshoe we've heard from, so.
Did we have a topic, is there a topic?
Yeah, what's the topic?
Good question. The topic is two things, the main event, well, there are two main events, accessory dwellings, and also some proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan related to some street type changes, and a few kind of cleanup issues, so.
Good, yeah, no, I think accessory dwellings is a good one to talk more about too. Well, anyway, not to get in the weeds, I'm gonna have I might have to leave a few minutes early, but I can be there.
Great.
All righty, that's all I have.
Thank you. Municipal Counselor's Office.
No, sir.
You don't have a report?
No, sir.
Should I keep asking, we could get all the way to 2.
Well, I mean, I can start talking if we're not ready to leave.
All right, citizens to be heard? The Warriors are here. No comments? All right. Well, having reached the end of our agenda, we are now adjourned.